Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012 show episode review. This one is going to be for Season 4, Episode 15, City at War. So yeah, we return from a pretty lengthy hiatus, like 4 months basically, kind of really unannounced. Like I think most people expected a break for the halfway point of the season, but I don't think anyone really expected it to be 4 months and it be this big of a delay. Uh, as far as I heard, like the show wasn't coming back until September, so I was a bit surprised to see this episode kind of be released. Obviously, a few days ago, so that's why it's a bit late because I only found out about the new episode a couple of days ago. So yeah. Anyway, let's get into this. Really good episode. I think that's the first thing to say. Like, okay, they've ended that space arc, which was very lackluster. We've returned to things and the show is suddenly really good. What a surprise. And they accomplished this by doing a bunch of things that I've kind of been asking for and kind of complaining about a little bit in my previous reviews. And that is giving more focus to April, check with this episode. Bring Karai back into things in a more heavy way, check. And then presenting what seems to be a kind of continuous plot for this season. And it's check, focused on seemingly just kind of Shredder, and then they may introduce some other stuff going on as well. So overall, like an episode that I think accomplished a lot in terms of just being a solid episode itself, but also I think presenting some really interesting stuff for the future. So very, very well done episode, which I don't think I've said a ton in recent about the recent episode. So this is a big success for me. So the episode opens up, and immediately I knew, oh, okay, they're taking a different approach here. They're going for some big stuff with the first scene. April is officially made a kunoichi, and that was just a really big moment. I'm just like, they've built up to this for a while. Admittedly, I didn't really see like one or two particular moments that kind of went like, okay, you've proven yourself. You are now a kunoichi. Like I didn't quite see like what prompted this as such, but it made sense after this much time that she would be trained enough to get the position. And then they gave her a character arc in this episode, and I quite like that. Just this idea that she's a ninja, she can keep up with the turtles relatively okay now, but even the turtles kind of mentioned that she's not at the same level as they are, and that like she's only on like the 3rd dawn or something like that, and they're on like 10 or something. And she's still got a bit to go, but she's just happy to be able to keep up with them. But when this new character, Shinigami, arrives and basically easily defeats her, it's basically a kind of arc of her trying to prove herself. And ultimately, they don't do anything huge with it in this episode, and that like it doesn't really feel overly big, but they're definitely hinting at something bigger for the rest of the series, especially with the second confrontation with Shinigami in the fight, which she still uses, which she still loses even after using her powers. But they immediately kind of go like, okay, let's stop the fight here, give her the thing back. They're a little bit like like afraid of her powers. That's what it seems like. If she learns how to use them like really effectively, April could be one of the more powerful characters in the series. In that here, it was just kind of cracking glass. That's all she really attempted to do. Whereas if she really learned to incorporate the ninja skills with her kind of psychic powers, she could be really, really strong. And they were definitely, I think, hinting at something with how angry she was at the end, in that they seem to be going for this thing where like if she lets her emotions get too high, her powers might go out of control, and that could be very interesting depending on what they do with that. Because it seems like obviously the necklace thing she got in the space arc seems to kind of amplify and help her control her powers, but if she herself gets out of control, that thing would just amplify her out of control powers. So there's definitely some interesting stuff they could do going forward. I don't know if they were just having it be like this episode where she's kind of over that now that she got the special, dragon move in at the end, taking out Tiger Claw, and she's kind of feels better because of that. I'm not sure, or will it be a continuous thing over the course of the season where she's not as good as she kind of feels she should be, and kind of wants to make amends for that and potentially loses herself in some of these fights going forward. Um, the other thing about this episode I really liked, speaking of the fights, was how well choreographed they were. I was beginning to feel they were getting a bit stale in a lot of recent episodes. The last Splinter Shredder fight, I suppose, excluded, but a lot of the turtle fights I felt were just very kind of bland and just like they didn't really accomplish anything. A lot of the fights here felt really good, like they really were going for something with them. Shinigami versus April, the two times they fought, and even the times Karai was involved in the fights, and even what they did with some of the turtles, it just felt like a higher quality of fight animation that they were going for. So, this episode really kind of improved things on like almost every level of what this show is. Um, Other things to talk about. I suppose speaking at the end a little bit, the whole threat basically of this whole episode is basically like there's like a power vacuum in the city, and Karai wants to take that over and basically take out her father, and she wants to do that on her own, just herself and Shinigami, and then we assume she'll form her own faction and recruit people over time. But then at the end of the episode, we get revealed that, okay, where has Shredder been this whole time? Because we see, Tiger Claw, Fish Face, and Razar. Where is Shredder? So we cut to the end, he's in his house, I don't really know where it was, and Baxter Stockman gives him, who's kind of bedridden after all the injuries he suffered against Splinter, he gives him mutagen. I think that's what's implied, that he pumps mutagen into his system, and he's basically mutating Shredder here. So this is something I think they've been setting up for a while now, that Shredder would eventually have to do this to himself to kind of be on the level to be able to fight Splinter primarily, but also the Turtles as well. And to see where you could go from here, and that he's obviously been an evil character, relatively composed despite being evil. This mutation, depending on what exactly it does to him, could really push him over the edge to being completely crazy. And he's at the point now where he seems like he's just against Karai. He has no... doesn't seem like he has any interest in trying to get her back as his daughter. He is full on willing to fight her to go to win now. So they're setting up some big stuff there, because I like what they did with Karai in this episode. Again, I really appreciate the April arc here, but bringing Karai back, 100% confirming the brainworm is no longer a part here. She seems fairly composed. For most of the episode, the snake form mutation wasn't really taking over her, so that was a kind of positive, and she seemed to have a relatively clear head. Admittedly, like, she still won't join up with the Turtles, which is a continued frustration that they just won't commit to that. It still was a frustration here, I think, in that, like, really, come on, after they saved you, you still won't join up with them? Like, how do you think you're not going to get into these situations again where you're captured? She's going to have to recruit more people than just Shinigami. So, like, that's the only, like, question I really have from this episode, is just, where is Karai going from here? Like, I get she wants to do it on her own to prove herself to her father, and I like that she's now properly accepting, Splinter as her father, but obviously they're going down this path of, everyone believes she's going on this path of revenge, and she'll kind of lose herself on that quest, and it'll be kind of back to square one again, whereas they just want her to be part of their team, and together they can kind of take out Shredder in the right way. So how exactly they get to that point, I'm not entirely sure, but I liked that they didn't just end the episode with Karai and Shinigami as enemies, that they're out there, they're not on the Turtle side as such, but they still kind of treat them as allies, that they're all against Shredder fundamentally. So they really have to build Shredder up as a kind of threat against all of these other factions. It's just, it is getting a little bit frustrating that they just won't commit to Karai being on the Turtle side, because it's been something people have wanted basically since her introduction, and very few episodes after that. Like, we're just like, okay, just bring her onto the good side and you could do some interesting stuff with her. But especially Shinigami, new character introduced, interesting design, interesting powers, and that they kind of go more for a kind of witch-like powers. She uses weapons similar to Mikey. Mikey obviously develops a crush on her immediately. She doesn't seem to like him back in that same way. But yeah, she seems exceptionally skilled. there was that scene where she was fighting Tiger Claw where it kind of implied that she was potentially the one who took his other eye, in that the whole hypnotizing thing that she had, it looked like a cat eye or something like that, but I don't really know if that's what they were going for, because Tiger Claw didn't seem to react like that was the case. He just seemed to react to being potentially mind controlled. So they're a little bit unclear on what exactly that was meant to be, but just establishing that she is a powerful fighter, but she's not undefeatable. That Tiger Claw did get the better of her. And they seem to be like building up the villains again, like they're making them feel more powerful, in that just these three, Fishface, Razar, and Tiger Claw, were able to fight, the four turtles, Karai and Shinigami, and get away, relatively unscathed. They eventually are defeated by, April's Dragon Tail attack, but and obviously the kind of explosion goes off, but they get out of it, without being horribly defeated. Like it's April's kind of sudden move that kind of wins them the fight, rather than just they flat out bested them 100%. So yeah, the episode really ends with just this position of like Shredder coming back into play. The mutagen, we assume, will help to heal him, plus give him powers and probably make him even more unstable and more of a villain. And we have his faction. We have Karai and her kind of mysterious faction kind of form. She wants to reform the Foot in a good way, and that kind of questions like where exactly are the Foot with regards to Shredder, because he seems to have his mutants. There's the robot Foot out there as well. So what exactly is Karai going to do? When are the gangsters going to get involved? Other mutants, are they going to get involved? The episode title, City at War, kind of hints that they present more factions, but they didn't really commit to that. So I assume the next couple of episodes will have to be about really establishing this kind of fight for turf within the city. All of these factions in play. They mentioned the Krang aren't around. I hope they commit to keeping the Krang away for a while. Now, it's always been one of those things with the show where, like, the Krang are a fun villain, but they're not really the best villain. They probably have something more to explain with April's powers that might involve the Krang, but for the most part, I really don't want to see them involved for a while, because I think right now they just overly complicate things. I think you can do factions and not involve the Krang to just have that many. So yeah, I'm overall pretty happy about where they're going. Like, I don't think they've obviously set up a character arc for any of the turtles, which will be my continuous problem with the series, in that our main four characters don't really feel like the main four characters because they're not being given any continuous character arc, whereas April presented with a character arc in this episode. Karai, character arc. Even Shredder, kind of, character arc here. And all this new stuff about Shinigami. Like, a lot of characters are outshining the turtles at this point. And that's my only real kind of major issue coming out of this episode, in that the turtles just feel like the main hero characters. They don't feel like they have anything overly big going on. They are just relatively skilled characters who will save the day, and that's it. And that's going to become frustrating quickly. I think they have to commit to doing something. Now, if they want to take a break from the turtles and focus on, like, April and Karai for a while, that's fine. But I do eventually want to get to a point where we are developing the turtles individually, as a group, and make them feel important as the main characters. That's the only big weakness in the show that I really have. So yeah, that's been the review, basically. So yeah, that's City at War. Really solid start to, I suppose, what is effectively the second kind of big arc of Season 4. Very interested to see where they go with this. Again, the other problem with the show would be inconsistency. I hope when we get to the next episode, or a couple of episodes from now, we are not just back to completely random episodes where, like, oh no, a new mutant has shown up, let's defeat him for this episode and not have anything important happen. That's what the show doesn't need to do. We need to continue off this kind of gang warfare kind of plot that's going on, a lot of factions fighting for control of the city. That's really cool. Stick with that. So yeah, just end by saying, if you want to follow me on Twitter and Tumblr, links are in the description to those accounts on social media. Then if you want to help support my channel so I can make more videos, make better videos, a link to my PayPal donation link for one-off donations, and then my Patreon page if you want to better support my channel and get, like, various rewards as well. So yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.